I've stayed in hotels all across America. Most nights were completely normal. Until one night, if the front desk ever calls your room after 2:30 a.m., don't ignore it. At exactly 2:31 a.m. the phone beside my bed rang. The woman at the front desk sounded terrified. She whispered, "Sir, whatever you hear, don't open your door." Before I could ask why, the line went dead. 5 seconds later, the electronic lock on my door beeped. Then it beeped again. Someone was trying different key cards. I looked through the peephole. The hallway was empty. But something had stopped, right outside my door. My name is Ethan Carter. At the time, I worked as a network technician for a telecommunications company. My job took me all across America. 1 week, Texas. The next, Colorado, Montana, Idaho. It didn't matter where I went. By the end of every trip, I always ended up in another hotel. After years of traveling, hotels stopped feeling strange. Every room looked the same. The same bed. The same hallway. The same silence. I never thought twice about checking in. Until the night I stayed in room 428. It was a cold Thursday, in late October. I had spent almost 9 hours driving across western Montana after repairing equipment at a remote communications tower. Heavy rain followed me for most of the drive. By the time I reached the small town of Ash Creek, it was 10:45 p.m. The town looked almost deserted. Most of the stores were already closed. The streets were empty. Only 3 places still had their lights on: a gas station, a 24-hour diner, and an old hotel at the end of the street. Its faded neon sign flickered in the rain. Pine Hollow Hotel. It wasn't abandoned. It wasn't run down. Everything looked clean, but something about the place made me slow down. I can't explain why. Maybe it was the silence. Maybe it was the way the building stood alone, as if the rest of the town had forgotten it existed. I parked my truck, grabbed my backpack, and walked inside. The lobby felt warm. It smelled like fresh coffee and old pine wood. Soft jazz music played quietly through hidden speakers. Everything looked perfectly normal. Behind the front desk stood a woman in her late 50s. Her name tag read, Linda. She smiled as I walked in. "Long drive?" I nodded. "Almost 9 hours." She handed me the registration form. While I filled it out, I noticed something strange. Every few seconds, Linda glanced toward the security monitor behind the desk. Not at me. Not at the front door. Only at the screen. Like she was waiting for someone to appear. When I finished signing, she handed me my key card. Room 428. Then, she hesitated. For a few seconds, she simply looked at me. Almost like she wanted to say something. Finally, she spoke. "If your room phone rings tonight." She stopped. Took a slow breath, then forced a smile. "It's probably just the night clerk checking on the guests." The sentence sounded rehearsed. Like she had said it many times before. I thanked her, picked up my backpack, and walked toward the elevator. Just before the doors closed, I looked back. Linda was still standing behind the front desk, watching me. She wasn't smiling anymore. The elevator reached the 4th floor. Ding! The doors slowly opened. Silence. No televisions. No conversations. No footsteps. Only the quiet hum of the air conditioner. Room 428 sat at the very end of the hallway. Directly across from it was an old maintenance room. Its steel door was secured with a heavy chain. A faded warning sign hung from the handle. Authorized personnel only. I unlocked my room. Stepped inside. Everything looked normal. A king-size bed. A desk beside the window. A coffee machine. Nothing unusual. I placed my backpack on the floor. But before I closed the door, something made me look down the hallway, one last time. It was completely empty. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling that someone was quietly watching me. I locked the door. Dropped my backpack beside the bed. and checked the room one last time. The bathroom was empty. The closet was empty. Even under the bed, nothing. I laughed quietly. Maybe Linda's strange behavior had gotten into my head. I took a hot shower, changed into a clean t-shirt, answered a few work emails. Then I plugged my phone into the charger. The signal was perfect. 4 bars. Before going to sleep, I set my alarm for 7 a.m. outside. The rain continued to fall. Soft. Steady. The sound against the window was almost relaxing. Within minutes, I was asleep. I don't know how long I had been sleeping. Maybe an hour. Maybe 2. Then, the room phone rang. One sharp ring. Then another. I opened my eyes. For a second, I didn't know where I was. The phone kept ringing. I looked at the clock beside my bed. 2:31 a.m. I reached for the receiver. Hello? For a moment, no one answered. Then, a woman spoke. Her voice was barely above a whisper. Sir, I need you to listen very carefully. I sat up in bed. Who is this? She ignored the question. Whatever happens, do not open your door. My heart skipped a beat. What? Why? Again, she didn't answer. Instead, she whispered something that made my stomach tighten. Someone is trying to get into your room. I jumped out of bed. What are you talking about? Who is it? There was a long pause. When she finally spoke again, her voice sounded even more frightened. I don't know. But whatever you hear, don't answer the door. Before I could say another word, the line went dead. I pulled the receiver away from my ear. Nothing. No dial tone. Only silence. I looked at the caller ID. It displayed only 2 words, front desk. I grabbed my cell phone. I tried calling the front desk back. No signal. Not even 1 bar. I frowned. That didn't make any sense. Less than an hour earlier, I had full reception. Now, nothing. I walked to the window. The parking lot was empty. Rain covered every car. The streetlights reflected across the wet pavement. Everything looked peaceful. Then, beep. A sharp electronic sound came from my door. I froze. Every hotel guest knows that sound. Someone had just scanned a key card. I held my breath. Maybe another guest had the wrong room. It happens. Then, beep. Again, another failed attempt. This time, the door handle moved. Slowly. Very slowly. As if someone was testing the lock. My heart started pounding. Every instinct told me, stay away from the door. But curiosity won. I stepped closer. As quietly as I could. Then, I looked through the peephole. The hallway was completely empty. No footsteps. No luggage. No movement. No shadows. No one. I kept looking. 5 seconds. 10 seconds. Nothing. I slowly stepped away from the door. That's when I heard it. Not from the hallway. Not from outside. From inside my room. A single sound. Very soft. Very close. As if someone, standing only a few feet behind me, had just taken one slow, deep breath. Every muscle in my body froze. I didn't turn around. Not immediately. I couldn't. That slow breath, it sounded real. Too real. It wasn't the air conditioner. It wasn't my imagination. Someone had breathed right behind me. I closed my eyes. Counted to 3. Then, I turned around. Nothing. The room was exactly the way I had left it. The bed was untouched. The bathroom door was open. The lights were off. The closet was closed. No one was there. I let out a slow breath. Maybe I was losing my mind. Maybe I was more exhausted than I realized. I took one step toward the bed. Then, the room phone rang again. I stared at it. I didn't want to answer. Not this time. But it kept ringing. Once. Twice. 3 times. Finally, I picked it up. "Hello?" The same woman answered. This time, she sounded even more frightened. "Sir? Did you look through the peephole?" My stomach tightened. "Yes." There was a long silence. Then she whispered, "I was afraid you would." "What does that mean? Who are you?" Again, she ignored my questions. Instead, she spoke slowly. "If you hear someone outside your door, do not answer. If someone calls your name, do not answer. Even if they sound familiar, do not answer." A chill ran through my body. "What is outside my room?" Another pause. Then, very quietly, she said, "It knows you looked." The call ended. I immediately picked up my cell phone. The signal was back. 4 bars. Without wasting a second, I called the front desk. The phone rang once. A man answered. "Front desk. This is Daniel." I frowned. "Daniel? I was just talking to a woman." Silence. Then he replied, "Sir, I've been working alone since 11 tonight. There isn't any woman here." I felt the blood drain from my face. "That's impossible." She called from the front desk. Daniel didn't answer. Then he asked, "What room are you in?" 428. The line went completely silent. For several seconds, neither of us spoke. Finally, Daniel whispered, "Stay inside your room. I'm coming upstairs." The call ended. I waited. 1 minute. Then another. Suddenly, I heard footsteps. Heavy footsteps. Running down the hallway. They stopped, right outside my door. Then, 3 slow knocks. Knock. 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 A calm voice spoke. "Mr. Carter. It's Daniel. You can open the door." I walked closer. Slowly. Very slowly. I stopped just before reaching the handle. Something felt wrong. I looked down. There was no shadow beneath the door. No movement. No sound. Nothing. Then the voice spoke again. Exactly the same words. Exactly the same tone. Like it hadn't moved at all. "Mr. Carter. It's Daniel. Open the door." At that exact moment, my cell phone vibrated. A text message. Unknown number. It contained only one sentence. "Don't open the door." A second message appeared. "Daniel is still in the elevator." I looked at the door. Then at my phone. Then the doorknob slowly began to turn. The doorknob stopped turning. I stood there, frozen. My eyes were still fixed on the handle. For a few seconds, nothing happened. Then, the footsteps outside disappeared. No voice. No movement. No sound. Only silence. I slowly stepped away from the door. My hands were shaking. I looked at my phone again. The message was still there. "Daniel is still in the elevator." I didn't understand. Who sent that message? And how did they know what was happening? Before I could think of an answer, my phone rang. Unknown number. I stared at the screen. Then I answered. "Hello?" A man's voice spoke immediately. "Mr. Carter?" It was Daniel. But this time, his voice sounded different. Like he was out of breath. "Where are you?" I asked. "I'm still on the 4th floor." I froze. "What? You said you were in the elevator?" There was a pause. Then Daniel said, "I never reached the elevator." My stomach dropped. "What do you mean?" "I came upstairs. But something stopped me." I looked toward the door. "What stopped you?" Daniel didn't answer right away. Then he whispered, "Mr. Carter, step away from the door. Right now." I moved backward. Slowly, the room suddenly felt much colder. A few seconds later, the elevator bell rang in the hallway. Ding. Then, I heard footsteps. Real footsteps. Fast footsteps. Several people this time. Someone shouted, "Hotel security!" Another voice yelled, "4th floor!" I looked through the peephole. 2 security officers were running toward my room. Daniel was with them. This time, I could see his face. It was real. They stopped outside my door. "Mr. Carter?" Daniel called. "It's safe now." I didn't open the door immediately. I waited, watching, listening. Finally, I unlocked the door. The security officers checked the hallway. Every corner, every exit, every storage room. Nothing. No one. The hallway was completely empty. One of the officers examined the electronic lock. His expression changed. "Daniel, you need to see this." Daniel walked closer. "What is it?" The officer looked at the scanner. There were multiple access attempts on this room. I swallowed. "How many?" The officer stared at the screen. 12. A cold feeling moved through my body. 12 attempts? He nodded. Between 2:31 and 2:37 a.m. I looked at Daniel. "So someone really was trying to get inside." The officer didn't answer immediately. Then he said, "That's the strange part. There was no key card." I frowned. "What?" He turned the scanner toward us. The lock recorded every attempt, but it didn't record who tried to open it. Nobody spoke. Daniel's face became pale. Then, he looked at me. "Come with me." We went downstairs. Behind the front desk, Daniel opened a small office. Inside were old filing cabinets, dusty boxes, and hundreds of guest records. He pulled out a large, faded book. "This hotel has been here for a long time." He placed it on the desk. Then he opened it. His finger stopped on one name. Michael Harper. Room 428. Checked in, October 14th. Never checked out. I looked at Daniel. "What happened to him?" Daniel slowly closed the book. "Nobody knows. The police searched the room. They found his suitcase, his wallet, his phone. His car was still in the parking lot. Everything he owned was still there." He paused, then whispered, "Except him." I felt a chill run down my back. "Why are you showing me this?" Daniel looked toward the 4th floor ceiling. Then he said something I will never forget. "Because Michael Harper wasn't the first guest who disappeared from room 428. The room became silent. Then Daniel opened another file. Inside was an old photograph. A picture of the Pine Hollow Hotel lobby. And standing behind the front desk was a woman I recognized. My heart stopped. It was Linda. Daniel looked at me. "My grandmother worked here that night." I stared at the photograph. "Your grandmother?" He nodded slowly. "Yes." Then he said, "Her name was Linda." Neither of us spoke. I couldn't take my eyes off the photograph. Linda looked exactly the way I had seen her. The same smile. The same uniform. The same name tag. There was no mistake. It was her. I slowly looked at Daniel. "Your grandmother. The woman who checked me in." Daniel nodded. "She passed away 8 years ago." A cold feeling settled in my chest. "Then who gave me the key?" Daniel didn't answer. Instead, he opened another folder. Inside were old newspaper clippings. Missing guests. Unsolved investigations. Every article mentioned the same room. Room 428. Some guests disappeared. Others survived. But every survivor told the same story. A phone call after 2:30 a.m. A frightened voice. One warning. "Don't open your door." Daniel looked at me. "My grandmother kept a journal. She wrote everything down." He carefully placed an old notebook on the desk. Its pages were yellow. The cover was badly worn. He opened the final page. Only one sentence was written there. "It doesn't choose every guest. It only chooses the ones who answer the call." I felt my heartbeat slow. I answered the phone. Daniel looked at me. "I know." Before either of us could say another word, the lights flickered. Once. Twice. Then, The entire lobby went dark. Only the red emergency exit signs remained. The hotel became completely silent. No music. No voices. Nothing. Then, beep. A sharp electronic sound echoed through the building. Daniel grabbed the security radio. It crackled to life. A guard shouted, "Front desk! Room 428 just opened!" Daniel's face turned pale. "That's impossible. No one is up there." The guard answered immediately. "The system says." The door opened. From the inside. Neither of us moved. My room should have been empty. The security monitors flickered back to life. One by one. The fourth floor camera appeared. Room 428. Its door was standing wide open. The hallway was empty. Then, something stepped out. A tall figure, wearing an old hotel uniform. Its movements were slow, almost unnatural. It wasn't walking. It was gliding, without making a sound. It stopped, in the middle of the hallway. Then, very slowly, it lifted its head and looked directly into the security camera. For one brief second, it smiled. Every monitor went black. At the exact same moment, every room phone in the hotel started ringing. All at once. The sound echoed through every floor. No one in the lobby moved. No one dared to answer. Then, one phone stopped ringing. It was the phone on the front desk. Daniel looked at it. The screen displayed only 3 words. Call from 428. Neither of us had touched the phone. Slowly, it answered itself. And through the speaker, a familiar voice whispered, "It's time to check out." No one moved. No one even breathed. The phone on the front desk was still off the hook. Then, the voice spoke again. Soft. Calm. Almost friendly. "Room 428 is waiting." The line went dead. Daniel grabbed the master key. He looked at the 2 security guards. "We're going upstairs." One of the guards shook his head. "We should wait for the police." Daniel looked him straight in the eyes. "We don't have time." A few moments later, the 4 of us stepped out of the elevator. The 4th floor felt different. The air was freezing. The hallway was completely silent. Even the sound of the rain was gone. At the very end of the corridor, room 428 stood open, waiting. Daniel raised his flashlight. "Stay behind me." We walked forward. Slowly. Every step echoed through the hallway. The closer we got, the colder it became. I could see my own breath. Daniel reached the doorway. He shined the flashlight inside. The room looked empty. The bed, the desk, the window. Everything looked exactly as I had left it. Except my suitcase. It was sitting in the center of the room, wide open. Every piece of clothing had been carefully folded, as if someone had unpacked everything for me. No one spoke. Then, the bathroom door slowly creaked open, by itself. Daniel aimed his flashlight inside. Nothing. Only darkness. He took one step forward. Then another. The beam reached the bathroom mirror. At first, it looked normal. Then, letters slowly appeared across the fogged glass. Not written. Not painted. As if an invisible finger was tracing each word. He never checked out. The words disappeared. Another message replaced them. "Leave. Before sunrise." Suddenly, every light in the room exploded. Glass shattered across the floor. The flashlight went out. Darkness. Complete darkness. For one terrifying second, no one made a sound. Then, the emergency lights turned on. A faint red glow filled the room. I looked toward the window. Someone was standing there. A man. Wearing an old Pine Hollow hotel uniform. His face was pale. His eyes never blinked. He wasn't looking at us. He was staring into the hallway. As if he was waiting for someone else. Daniel whispered. "My grandmother used to say, it never wanted the guests. It wanted The ones who opened the door. The man slowly lifted one hand. Then, he pointed behind us. I turned around. My heart stopped. The hallway was full. Dozens of people stood there. Perfectly still. Men. Women. Children. All of them faced room 428. None of them moved. None of them blinked. Their faces were empty. Like they had been waiting, for years. Then, one by one, they began to disappear. The first rays of sunlight slipped through the hallway window. The cold air faded. The silence lifted. The figures were gone. The man by the window was gone. Only room 428 remained. Empty. The police arrived less than an hour later. They searched the entire hotel. They found no fingerprints. No damaged locks. No broken cameras. According to the security system, no one had entered my room that night. Officially, nothing had happened. 3 months later, Pine Hollow Hotel closed its doors forever. The building was demolished the following year. Today, a brand new hotel stands on the same property. Most guests never notice anything unusual. But every now and then, someone posts a review online. They all describe the same thing. A phone call, at exactly 2:31 a.m. A frightened voice. One warning. Whatever you hear, don't open your door. I never stayed there again. And I never will. Because after that night, I finally understood something. Some hotel doors are not meant to keep danger out. Sometimes, they're the only thing keeping it in.